Hey fight fans, it's time for another edition of Covering the Cage. In fact, a special edition following the Khabib Nurmagomedov Conor McGregor fight that went down at UFC 229 here in Las Vegas this past Saturday. Joining me here, Adam Hill, Gilbert Manzano, and I'm Heidi Fang. We're going to get into it from the top because I think it's important to remember that there was a fight before the fight. Khabib submitted Conor McGregor. He tapped out in the fourth, and then right after that, chaos ensues. Khabib jumps over the octagon. We've all seen that. And from there, that's where things get fuzzy because there were reportedly possibly fighters involved that are supposed to have a fight coming up. There were reportedly other people involved that were part of Conor's camp, part of Khabib's camp that will no longer be allowed into the UFC. Adam, from your point of view, what did you see happen? And you were right there. So was Gilbert. So we'll get both of your angles and point of views. But what did you see?
Well, it happened so quickly after the fight. I mean, obviously we saw Conor McGregor get worn down by Nurmagomedov and eventually submitted. And Nurmagomedov stood over him as he said he would. I mean, none of this was really that much of a surprise. He said he's going to beat him. He's going to taunt him. He's going to stand over him and remind him that he beat him. He did that. And when Nurmagomedov turned around, there was a lot of chirping coming from Conor McGregor's side. And again, none of this is to condone what happened. It's just pointing out exactly what did. Nurmagomedov was clearly still agitated, clearly still emotional. He threw his mouthpiece first, and then he decided to just go. And he jumped over the cage very quickly and went after Dylan Dennis, who was, he's McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach, longtime friend, training partner, always hanging around Conor. And he went right after him. He tried to do a drop kick off the cage, and then chaos ensued outside, and then everything got kind of moved back inside. And one of the things to remember from this is the UFC was incredibly prepared for a lot of this stuff to go on inside the cage. There was all kinds of security. There was a plan in place. Dana was going to go in. He was going to individually decide who could and could not go in the cage depending on who won. All that stuff was decided. But that was all the plan was, okay, the cage is going to keep everybody out. But the problem is Nurmagomedov decided to go outside, and that's where everything kind of broke down.
Now, there were some reports that Conor started this, that Conor was doing something in the cage first before Khabib jumped over. Gilbert, from your point of view, did you see that?
Live didn't get to see because there was so much chaos going right in front of me.
Right.
But then you go into Twitter and you see all these videos come out, all these freeze frames pop up. And it seems like after Khabib jumped over the cage, Conor went to go follow him, but he stopped on top of the cage and he found one of the members of Khabib's teams. And I think he landed a big left hook to his face. I think maybe it was his brother or something. I forget who it was. Had a big black eye. So if you want to, punish these guys and you want to say who was the first person to throw a real punch, it was actually Conor McGregor. So when the commission is saying that McGregor got his check but not Khabib, I don't know what the commission saw to give Khabib his check. But did they see Conor throw a punch? If so, did that go into who had his check and who was not? So I want to talk to Bob Bennett about that, but he's not talking to anybody right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. A lot to be said because that footage after, there was so much going on.
And I think that's a big part of the issue. There was just so many things happening, and I don't believe the commission saw that angle. I think they only saw what was on television. They watched the replay back and decided, and you didn't see the Conor angle of that. Conor, and it was not first. I mean, let's be clear. Khabib certainly went over. Yeah. He certainly went over first. Conor tried to follow. He was held up on top of the cage. So he's sitting on top of the cage, being held back by security. One of Nurmagomedov's team also tries to go, and he's also there. So they're both sitting on top of the cage, being held in place. And that's when Conor throws the left hook that did land. It landed pretty well, actually. And that triggered what happened inside the cage. Although, let's also say, for those that watch the fight, and we know him as red shirt guy now, that's completely different. That's somebody that then jumps into the fray afterward. That person just needs to go. Like, they shouldn't be allowed in any event ever. Like, that's unacceptable. But certainly as all these different angles are looked at and all the clips are analyzed, they'll start to get to the bottom of it. But Nurmagomedov certainly, as much as was said, as much as I thought it was really disturbing, a lot of stuff that Conor said and his camp said, you just can't go outside the cage. So certainly it is on him. Yeah. All these other things are just part of the story.
Another part of this whole story is we're supposed to see Artem Lobov, who was partly, in part, the big reason why all of this chaos started in the first place. Artem Lobov was the teammate of Conor McGregor's, who was in New York when Conor flew back from Ireland with 40 guys and attacked the bus because I guess there was a confrontation between Khabib's camp and Artem Lobov at the hotel.
Well, Artem went on TV in Russia and said a lot of really bad things about Nurmagomedov.
Right.
Nurmagomedov saw him at the hotel in April, confronted him, and that is what led Conor to then come attack the bus that Khabib was on. So yes, Artem Lobov at the beginning of this, and he's still around in the UFC. He's still fighting, mostly because he's Conor McGregor's friend, and I think Conor would not be happy with the UFC if they got rid of him. And yeah, he was supposed to fight later this month.
Right. So is that fight, because part of the reason too I ask is that Zubaraya Tukhugov was part, I think, of the fray, and they're trying to find out exactly what his role was. He's one of Khabib's teammates. And he was supposed to fight Artem, like you said, upcoming here. I think it was supposed to be the end of this month.
Yeah, in Moncton.
Right. Now, is that going to still happen?
I can't imagine that it does. Now, Dana said afterwards, anybody that was involved in coming into the cage or being a part of that's not Nurmagomedov or McGregor will never fight in the UFC. Now, the issue with this is nobody has confirmed that indeed is who it was. We don't know for sure any of these situations, but I'll say this. The fight was made because of all the animosity between the camps. It certainly is a very, very interesting fight. There's no question about that. You can't do that fight. You just can't. Especially like in Las Vegas, they were prepared. There was cops everywhere. There was security. They were ready for things like this to happen involving the camps. I don't know that in Moncton. I don't even know how many police are there. I don't even know where it is.
The whole department is
It's in Canada,
cops.
yes.
Right.
But I don't think that it's not the right time. I mean, if you want to do it down the road and you want to have it in an event where you can have everything kind of in a controlled environment, fine. But I just don't think you want to do this fight with all the issues between these camps and everything that's been said. I would not be a part of promoting that.
Yeah, and I think Dana even said that.
Should we blame Artem for this bad matchup for Conor McGregor? I know Adam was surprised that this fight was actually going to happen for a style matchup. Khabib and McGregor. Khabib had the advantage as a wrestler. McGregor's weakness is going to the ground. We saw what happened. That was a big beatdown. I don't think, if without Artem, McGregor goes into the cage to fight Khabib.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there was already some animosity between them. I mean, it wasn't like the Artem thing was the first thing that happened between them. There was already some things there. But yeah, I don't know that Conor takes that fight if all of that stuff in New York doesn't happen. I think it's just a rival from afar type thing between them. So you could also blame Ali Aquinta for losing. If he would have beat Khabib, then Conor could have come on and taken the fight from Al. I mean, there's a lot of things that went into this. There's, it's what the butterfly effect, where one little incident can change everything. But yeah, I mean, it was a really risky fight for Conor to take, and I do think a lot of the animosity and the things between their camps forced him to take it. But it was a bad move for him. And
I read this in part of your article, Adam, that you wrote up for the paper here, that it said, and I saw it as well, that Conor wasn't himself. He'd been promoting his whiskey, and that may have had some effect on him. He didn't throw his left hand half as much. In fact, I believe at a midway point through the fight, maybe when the third round started, a lot of people were beginning to question if his hand was even, fully healthy. Did he break it at some point in the fight? Because he just wasn't throwing at the same power.
He broke it by getting worn down and exhausted. And as Gilbert pointed out, Gilbert, certainly more of a boxing guy, but you could see that Conor was not, when he was throwing the left, because he was throwing in the third round a lot, but he was throwing it to the body. I think it was because he couldn't get his arm up high enough. He was too tired to even lift his arm high enough to throw a headshot.
Yeah, you saw it by the second round that he was already coming out winded, that Khabib had his way with him on the ground. He was able to take him down for the better part of the second round and pin him there. The third round was interesting to me because Khabib was standing with him. Yeah. And I was like, well, he wants to stand and trade. This could be a dangerous game, but yeah.
I think because in the second round, Khabib tagged him with a good right hand and dropped Conor momentarily. But I'm thinking maybe Khabib's like, hey, I could stand and trade with this guy. Let me beat him at his own game, embarrass him here in front of Las Vegas. Yeah. So I think Adam was saying, get down, shoot, because this is your game. What are you doing standing up? So I think Khabib was kind of toying McGregor for a little bit. And like Adam was saying, he never got that left hand going. I'm like, you fought Floyd Mayweather for 10 rounds. Where's your boxing? This is your moment to finally attack. This is what you do. This is what you make your money.
Yep.
And he couldn't do it. And his right side was all kind of limp. Like he was so tired to get his left hand up that Khabib was attacking the right side. So overall, it was a bad performance for Conor McGregor.
And talking to some people from Nurmagomedov's camp, that was actually the plan. His plan all along was to try to if you notice in the first round, he wasn't even really trying to do anything.
No.
He got on top, wore him down. Second round, he really pounded him and wore Conor out. The plan all along was for the third and fourth round to be stand-up rounds for Nurmagomedov because he wanted to knock him out. He wanted to win on the feet. He wanted to prove a point. And the whole point was to try to wear him down and not beat him in the first and second round so that you could knock him out on the feet. I think it went wrong because Nurmagomedov actually did lose that third round on all three cards and on my card as well. So it was the first round he never lost. And I think they said, you know what? I know that was the plan. Stop it. Like go back to plan A and wear him down here. So that's what he eventually did. But the plan was all along was to wear him down, make him tired, and then stand up and try to beat him on the feet.
All right. Are there any repercussions otherwise that you may have heard of with the commission or with the UFC other than what we already discussed?
No, I mean they'll be looking into the incident. They'll be calling people in, as you said. There'll be a hearing, and we'll find out a penalty down the road. But as of right now, pretty much it was contained. Once people decided not to press charges, once there was no arrest, that part of it was over, and now it's just kind of on the commission to do their work.
All right, so we will leave it there with Covering the Cage. Again, Adam Hill, LVRJ on Twitter. You can give him a follow. Keep up to date with all the latest that's happening and unfolding with this on a day-to-day basis. G Manzano 24 on Twitter. He as well does cover combat sports, boxing, and even Raiders. So if you want to look at any of his work there, to give him a follow. And I am at Heidi Fang. We'll catch up with you and keep you up to date on all the latest in MMA and again with the Conor and Khabib situation. So keep it tuned to ReviewJournal.com.